Well, we should probably put a disclaimer in there for all listeners. I'm sorry in advance for my animals. I have a very loud cat, and I have a dog that likes to bark and flea farts. So, I'm sorry in advance, everybody. And welcome to the very first episode of the Wayward Dragons. We are your hosts. I am Kelsey.
And I am Johnny. So, while you're listening, you're going to be listening to two fairly awkward, nerdy individuals ramble on about occult things and all that fun stuff. So, hope you enjoy, and welcome to the shit show.
Yes,
hope you
welcome.
Learned something.
Alongside us, as we go through all the interesting topics that we want to cover. So I figured we kind of get it out of the way, how we are friends, how we became friends, and how long we have kind of known each other, to kind of get that out of the way for everybody. So we have been friends for nearly a decade, and we became friends because we used to work with each other. Very long time ago. We don't work with each other anymore, which makes me super sad.
I would prefer you over very many of the people I currently work with. So,
Same.
But that's
especially with the pandemic. Especially with the pandemic going on. Oh. Yeah.
Well, you still work with the public. I don't. So
this is true, and I will say, the public during this pandemic, not good.
Yeah.
Y'all need to learn some manners and what 6 feet is.
So, so we've been friends for nearly a decade, worked together. Kelsey was actually hired in as my boss during that time period. But we
was your boss.
Yeah. We became fairly close friends fairly quickly. Due to some of our similar interests and the fact that we are both huge fucking nerds.
Yes, huge nerds. Yeah, you're the one that got me into going to DragonCon every year.
Yeah.
So
that's what I do. I rope people in. I have several people that I rope in. I actually have a Russian friend that came this past year, and he was hounding me quite affectionately on making sure a room got booked this year, and so he made sure he got rooms booked and all this fun stuff. So, there's that.
It's a good time.
It's
awesome going down there.
Yeah,
you meet a lot of fellow nerdy friends.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Granted, it's not for everyone.
No,
there's a lot of people. Granted, this year there wasn't as many as there's been in the past because of regulations they put in place because of COVID and all of that, of course. If anyone's listening to us in the future, we're recording this at the end of September in 2021. So, little time capsule piece, I guess.
Yes. Maybe we can do meetups at DragonCon.
Maybe. Maybe. So, Kels, what are your interests in the occult, and how did you get on this path?
So, it's something that I've always been interested in. It's a lot of the books that I read. I'm not into the horror of Stephen King, but I definitely read a lot of that subject of haunted objects, haunted places, and it always has that occult undertone kind of. I've grown up in haunted houses. My mom's house currently right now is super haunted, and I do not like that house at all. We'll do another episode of haunted experiences. Hate that house. But my mom, when I was in high school, actually got a tarot card reading at the Renaissance Festival. The lady that does the tarot card readings there, she's been tested by universities and stuff like that. But she basically told my mom that I was sensitive. I didn't really believe her growing up. I've lived in haunted houses. What does this even mean? And I met a friend that I also work with now, and my current partner, and weird stuff started happening. I could start feeling her pain, even from a distance. It was weird. We were on opposite sides of the outer belt of the city that I'm in, and I could feel her pain, which was weird. I can feel my partner's pain. I can feel certain family members' emotions and stuff like that. And kind of decided that I need to learn how to protect myself because I don't want to feel this all the time. And working with the public, it can be quite draining. So just kind of learning that I'm a mild empath. And now I'm down this rabbit hole that I've always been interested in my whole life. It's never been like a taboo subject in my house. You know, it's always okay to talk about the afterlife, ghosts and stuff like that. So just kind of going further down that rabbit hole, I guess. That's how I got interested.
Fun stuff.
What about you?
So with me, it's a little, there's some similarities there, but different. So I've always had an interest in it. And, this has always been an interesting question to me. So without revealing too terribly much information about myself and out of respect for both current and former teachers of mine in occult matters, I'm currently a member of a mystery school and have been in a few covens over the years. And this is a question that always comes up. So if that, and in combination with a podcast that I listen to, that anytime they have a guest on there, they ask, what's your coming of witch story? And, it's always interesting to see where the people come from and stuff. But so I've had a great deal of time to think about this, but really it's part of it kind of goes back to my childhood. Like where I grew up, it was built on an old homestead, and there were some, some ghosts and presence there. That, and in combination with, when I was younger, I would always play with the little people in the woods, and do stuff like that. And once you reach a certain age, you kind of get pushed out of that because society, and because hey, we can't. You're getting too old for that. And people start asking questions because, that's life. So like a lot of people, I over time got pushed away from that, but have kind of worked my way back to it. I would collect rocks, collect, all sorts of weird things as a kid, do what most people would consider sympathetic magic now, or whether people would consider sympathetic magic, that I am aware of what that is now, if I could rephrase that. But yeah, so I kind of got away from it, and over time rediscovered it, and kind of pushed myself back onto that path. So I didn't really find the path. It was kind of always part of who I was. It was more so of a rediscovery, which is different because I was raised Southern Baptist, and while conversations could be had with certain members of my family, and there was spiritualism in my family because of one of my stepdads and stuff like that, but it's not something that was really talked about, or kind of a faux pas subject. So.
You kind of see that in older generations too.
Yeah. Well, it's a come and go. Like at one point, my mom had mentioned to my grandmother about, not being Christian, me being pagan, and my grandma was just like, "Oh, okay," and that was like the only real, conversation that was ever had on the matter. And then, I there was a death in my family, and my mom was like, we want Johnny to do the eulogy, and my grandma's like, yeah, but he's not a Southern Baptist preacher.
That doesn't. That shouldn't matter.
So that was her comment, and my mom's like, yeah, but we should probably have him do it, and it would be fitting because of who the individual was that passed, and so our grandma's like, yeah, but we should have a Southern Baptist preacher, and so I did the eulogy, but there was a quote unquote sermon that was done by my grandmother's Southern Baptist preacher, and it was a little bit of a hellfire and brimstone service. So it was entertaining simply for the fact that the individual who passed, I was going to say it was my older brother. And so when my older brother passed, of course, several of his friends that I grew up around and stuff were out in the pews. And so this guy's up here talking, giving this hellfire and brimstone sermon. And I'm sitting here in the background trying not to laugh. And, my brother's friends are out in the pews trying their best not to laugh because it's like, this is not who my brother was.
Yeah.
This is, yeah. So, it was great. It was highly entertaining. No. But
see, like, my great grandmother was highly religious.
Yeah.
And then my grandma kind of towards the end started to become religious, but it wasn't something like that in that way, I guess. There was always kind of this open thing. Like, it was always an open platform for all of us. That, like, because before my grandma passed, like, I told her about this, and she's like, "No, Kelsey, why?" Like, Grandma, this is just who I am. Like, I have a Buddhist tattoo on my side. Do you really think that this is not me? Like, come on. And you talk to my great grandma every day. Yeah. Like, she's still here. Grandma.
Well, it's one of those things. So I think, especially with certain generations, the ideology of the occult and what the occult is, and even it's because of, popular media and pop culture and the stuff that's pushed through the media and all of that, that kind of muddles down or gives a dark side to what the occult actually means. That, and with, certain practices and certain ideologies that have kind of been pushed out. I've been, like I said, interested in this and part of my whole life, but the rediscovery process, I guess, kind of happened in my late teens. So I've read more than my share of books, listened to my share of podcasts and blogs.
Well, you've always been my go-to person when I would read something in a book. The one book I read with the teeth, where they would use the teeth as talismans, where I came to you and was like, where would this come from? Because I've never seen this in all the books that I've read. I've always seen an actual object be used. My favorite author, Gail Martin, besides Tolkien, huge Lord of the Rings fan here. One of her characters, you know what? I think the fact that I have two Lord of the Rings tattoos on my arm and a big book one on my back, I think I'm qualified now.
There's a qualification?
I guess. But one of her characters that Gail Martin writes about, Cassidy, and I kind of connect with this now that my grandma is gone now. Her talisman is her grandma's wooden spoon. So I always connected, like, your talisman's like an object. When I was reading about teeth, I was like, where the flying fuck does this come from? Yeah. So for so many years, you have been my, occult guru. Because it was easier to ask you, because you would put it in layman's terms for me.
Well, there's, I want to say it was Einstein, but there was some famous person at some point in time that said, if you can't explain something in language to a first grader, do you really understand it? And so
This is true.
So on my journey, and while I've been learning stuff, that's kind of been my thought process is, I want to learn something, but I want to be able to, explain it to others and have conversations with others and pick their brains and stuff. So I've, looked at the information and kind of applied it in different ways and said, okay, this says this and this says this over here. Well, this is where it crosses over. And this is the common language.
Because due to the media and a lot of the satanic panic, because you have to think our parents grew up in the satanic panic, and kind of our grandparents.
We were born in the latter parts of that.
The latter part of the satanic panic.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't really think it affected us. Except for the way of don't answer the door. And don't answer the phone.
Well, stranger danger is a completely
stranger danger became huge,
which is funny because that wasn't even that they did studies on that, and that was that's a completely different podcast, completely different conversation.
That's a different episode. That's whole different episode.
Yeah, I think Satanic Panic's probably going to be a couple episodes because that is a huge topic, and there's a lot of information there.
That is. We'll probably make that a series, honestly, for everybody. Because I don't think you can do the Satanic Panic properly without having 3 to 4 episodes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a bunch of different things you can delve into. And of course, certain things. Here's a fun thing. When I first showed interest in D&D, because, all the hate D&D got from the Satanic Panic, my mom was like, You're into what? Because of all the things that are associated with it, and that the people are going to summon demons, and
no,
that's a whole thing.
No,
but yeah, why don't you cover for us what occult is?
Okay. So during my research, I did find a lot of different meanings, but they're kind of all roughly the same. They're all basically the same. So the Oxford Dictionary defines it as, the noun, as supernatural, mystic, or magical beliefs, practices, or phenomenon. The adjective is of involving or relating to supernatural, mystical, or magical powers or phenomenon as medicine. And then they kind of do one about disease definition of a weird disease that gets magically cured, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, folk that weird miracle. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought it meant too.
You have folk healing. You have, it's like a placebo effect type thing. You can manifest your own cure in certain aspects, and then there's the whole. Drop a little book nerdiness here. Terry Pratchett's Discworld, there is a witch in Discworld that refers to things as headology, which I freaking love. But amazing book series if no one's ever read it. But
I was that is your favorite series.
Oh, it is. It is my favorite series. It is such a great book series, and there's you can relate anything back to it. But so the witch in it, she calls things headology, and basically how she explains it is it's like the placebo effect. It's you tell say, hey, you have someone who obviously needs vitamin C, so you'll take it and you'll do a spell for them, tell them to walk around in a circle 3 times while eating an orange every day, and most of the stuff that's involved in it is completely asinine, but it makes them think, hey, I'm doing something, when in reality all they're really doing is eating that orange and getting the vitamin C from the orange.
Yeah,
it's taking something that somebody needs to do that they're saying, oh, this is mundane and it won't do anything, and incorporating other things into that and making that the cure.
Yeah, that's where I thought that definition kind of came from.
Yeah. But anyways, back to subject.
It's we're going back on the path. Took a little side quest. Dictionary.com has 2 definitions. The first definition is of or relating to magic, astrology, or any system claiming to use or knowledge of secret or supernatural powers or agencies beyond the range of ordinary no knowledge or understanding. And then you have the Wikipedia, lovely Wikipedia. I'm apologizing to everyone. I have a dog and 3 cats, and my dog barks at Lee farts. Apologizing in advance.
Your pupper likes Wikipedia.
He does. Wikipedia is amazing. Everyone needs to donate to Wikipedia. But they break it down to the Latin definition, which basically means hidden or secret. So the occult in Latin terms means the knowledge of the secret.
Right, and so that comes from, part of that comes from the inclusion of, so back then there was the ideology that, certain things shouldn't be learned by everyone, and, you shouldn't practice magic or practice certain arts, medicine. All these things were considered part of the occult. Certain crafts and stuff were actually considered part of the occult in some cultures. But the ideology there is that you're not just having everyone go out and do it. You're actually being properly trained. And so they had things called mystery schools, which is what, I had mentioned before, what I am a part of. But they had mystery schools that they had different ways of finding them depending on the mystery school, but they would have them dedicated to like certain deities or certain ideologies, and depending on what those ideologies are would depend on what they would teach and how the magical arts would be incorporated into that and what knowledge they would present to people. But that was so it's the knowledge of the hidden or the secret knowledge that the knowledge is there, you just have to go, but it's not for everyone. Right, because, they don't, you're not going to go to a restaurant, you're not going to go to a 4-star restaurant and get a meal by someone who's, their only experience is cooking in their mom's kitchen. You might if their mom was like a, well-renowned chef, but
I was like,
that's neither here nor there.
If it's an Italian grandma mom.
That's a bit different. Or, if
I'd be down.
If there's a little mouse pulling the guy's hair to get him to cook stuff correctly.
That's a great movie, okay? Ratatouille, it's a great movie.
We are in no way sponsored by Disney or Pixar or any affiliation thereof.
But I would be totally okay if they did. Just saying. Huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan. Be totally okay if they sponsor us. Shut up. Hey.
But yeah, so modern uses or modern popular uses for occult typically tear on the negative side of things.
Yes.
They're generally tie into Satanism, which in its sense isn't really negative if you actually delve into what it is, but that's a whole episode in itself. It's just the portrayal it gets in media and stuff. But dark magics, witchcraft, which again, not evil.
It's not evil.
And then,
but you have to think media once again.
And then summoning demons. People do witchcraft every day. They just don't realize
sticks and stones may break my bones.
I'm rubber, saying that glue?
That's witchcraft, folks.
Blowing out birthday candles? Hey, guys. You just did a spell. Hey.
What's going on?
There's a TikToker, and I'm not on TikTok. I've seen a few that people have sent me, but there's a guy on TikTok who absolutely gorgeous man. But that's completely irrelevant to this conversation. I'm just saying he's an absolutely gorgeous man. But so
that's an important part.
It is. Let me tell you, that man can put a spell on you just by looking at you. Like, but so he goes through like these everyday things, and he's like, "Hey guys, guess what? You do this, that's witchcraft. You do this, that's witchcraft." And it's funny because really, if you delve into a lot of it, and actually, if you delve into a lot of things, and we'll go into this more later or in another later episode, but there's a lot of things from the Christian faith that are technically witchcraft. But there's things that you do every day.
That's what people don't realize.
Yeah, I mean, my grandma always used to take it, and a black cat would, or really any cat would cross her path, and she would put 3 X's on the windshield, and I'm like, that's witchcraft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's.
Oh yeah.
But and
I was like, cat crosses my path. I'm like, here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
I saw a funny thing on the social medias the other day.
The interwebs.
Yes, the interwebs, the social medias, the thing that everyone goes on, and it was a picture from, one of my absolute favorite restaurants, and if you can't tell, I'm being entirely sarcastic here, Chick-fil-A. So they had like a big basket of plastic soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, take one of these home with you and look at it and put it somewhere where you'll see it to remind you to pray for the soldiers overseas. And it's like, that's literally witchcraft, guys.
That's manifesting a thought.
Yes, that's putting a visual cue there to say, hey, I need to do this.
Yeah.
It can delve into, people saying, well, that's psychology, that's this, that's that. Well, guess what? Witchcraft there's a big part of psychology in witchcraft.
Yes. Because if you're not in the right mindset, a lot of stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so some...
Back on track.
Yep. If you can't tell...
We are the kings and queens of side quests.
If you can't tell, we are more than a midget bits, ADD, ADHD, so... Which, like I said, welcome to the shit show. Hopefully you'll learn something.
Welcome. Alongside us. But I figured we could define what is all included in the umbrella that is the occult. Because the media only kind of tells people that it's witchcraft, satanic, panic type stuff, Satanism. And it's a lot more than people think that is included in that. Everyone's mind always goes to that dark place of occult always means bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't. Your horoscopes every day are part of the occult, folks. You can thank the Romans and the Egyptians. But there's an actual website called Digital Occult Library. It's run by the City University of New York. CUNY. I'm thinking this was someone's end term project type thing, just because of how it's laid out. But in an academic sense, the occult means all these different topics. This is what's all included. Astrology.
And more.
It is. There's a lot more. This is all I could really find because I kept getting looped into a circle of it only means this thing. So this is as far as I could get.
Side quest, guys. Side quest.
What?
Life is a side quest.
It is. I want to get that shirt.
Hey guys, if we ever make shirts.
There's what's that website? There's a website that has it says something side quest on it with a huge we'll dragon.
Yeah, we'll look at it later.
It's like Teesprong or something like that. I don't remember. But according to this website, this is what occult often is implied when in an academic sense. Astrology, alchemy, which I could see that topic being from an older time, but not now, because alchemy, I don't think really.
Well, that would be a whole episode. But there's a whole lot that could go into that. Alchemy means more than just the typical mindset of, an old bearded man sitting in a laboratory trying to turn lead into gold. There's a whole thing on alchemy that delves into through multiple cultures.
Yes. Kabbalah? Did I say that right?
You did say that correctly.
Yes.
And there's 37 ways to spell it, because the Hebrew and alphabet compared to the Greco-Roman alphabet that we use, things get a little muddled at times.
Yeah. Divination, so your tarot cards,
scrying.
That's the next one.
No, scrying would be a form of divination.
Yeah.
Casting stones, casting
or
bones.
casting. Thank you. That was on the tip of my tongue. Contacting or summoning angels or demons, so your Ouija board. Ritual magic. What?
Well, also with contacting angels and demons, that goes into a whole thing with King Solomon and the Keys of Solomon, but that's about 3 side quests in itself.
We're not going down that road just yet.
All right, so back to
the list. Ritual magic runes. I always have a hard time saying that word. Certain historical societies or mystery cults. So Wiccan.
Well, you've got the Rosicrucians, you've got the Rosicross, you've got certain covens that have been historically spoken of. You've got the OTO with different groups that Aleister Crowley was involved in. I mean, there's the Freemasons would technically fall under that. Was it Skull and Crossbones that supposedly every president has been involved in. Yeah, so secret societies in general falls into that, because every secret society is evil Satan worshippers that summon demons to do their bidding and get rich.
The Hellfire Club. There we go.
That's what I'm thinking of. The Hellfire Club. Yes.
I was give me a second. Let me go through the mental Rolodex.
But so continuing on, Hermeticism.
Yes. I was I was really hoping you were going to pronounce that, because that was a doozy. Talismans, some form of mysticism, and then Wiccan.
Yeah, so you have, not just Wiccan. I mean, there's different. I mean, so Wicca itself, and we'll do a whole episode on what that is and its history.
Yes.
But
I feel that's more of a recent.
It is. It's kind of a resurgence, and we'll get into that when we go into the whole history of witchcraft and all of that fun stuff. But you also have Asatru, which is what the people who practice the Norse pantheon and Norse ideology, the Scandinavian type ideology. But you have, different forms of spiritualism that go into Buddhism, Hinduism. I mean, those are all technically occult practices in their own right, with the meditation and, a lot of the stuff they do. So there's really a lot of religious practices in their core really can be defined, at least in roots and in origin, under esoteric religious practices. But again, because time and because capitalism and all that fun stuff, it gets away from its root and gets away from the origin of what it actually originally was.
Well, and it's also, I feel a scare tactic in a way. We're always going to keep this seen as a bad thing, and it's not. A lot of these practices have been going on for a very long time, a lot longer than Christianity has been present. And it's only bad because it doesn't fit right now.
Well, and, not to knock on Christianity, because, I mean, I know there's a lot of podcasts out there that do the occult and they knock on Christianity because, all the fucked up shit that it's been done in the name and what it's kind of molded into over time. But, I mean, in its origin and in its essence, originally Christianity was completely different than what it is now. And, give it 2,000 more years and it's going to be something completely different if it's even still around.
Yeah. It might morph again.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
So the occult is defined as something that is hidden. Knowledge that is hidden. And going back to secret societies, one of the reasons why that kind of became the definition is because of how you got into these secret societies or to become a shaman or medicine woman. There's a lot of training involved that was only meant for you as that person. There's a coded language involved. And I think that's why the occult kind of gets this bad rap, is a lot of the teachings are guarded. They're sacred. It's not meant for everyone to know these things. You have to go through a lot of training to get to be able to know all these things. And I think that started to scare people in a way, I think.
Well, and it's, goes into certain practices from again, not to harp on Christians, but some practices from the Catholic Church where they were like, hey, we're going to, force you to follow our beliefs. And they'd go in and be like, hey, you guys are doing this, but really it's, the devil. And it's like, no, that's not what we're doing. No, it's the devil. So, they would take it and they'd go in and they'd build churches and stuff on pagan holy ground and say, well, you guys can still come. You just got to, do what we're doing.
Yeah. Use our God versus yours.
Or they would take it and they would go in, and this is a tactic that they've used, like multiple different religions have used to kind of spread their ideologies, is they'd go in and be like, oh, well, you're worshiping that guy. Well, it's, really Yahweh, or, it's really our God. Or, they'd go in and say, well, you think you're doing this, but it's actually this guy. And so you should do it our way, or we'll take it and we'll take some of your traditions and you take some of ours. And they did this like a cultural exchange. And, when that didn't work, they went to other means.
Yeah. I think you see that a lot with Viking, with Norse, pagan type stuff. Mm-hmm. When it met Christianity, it kind of... They turned it bad. They made what they were doing a lot worse than what was actually happening as a way of scaring people into going into Christianity. Like, look at these barbaric people and this is what they practice and this is what they do.
Right.
When in actuality, they weren't doing nearly half that stuff.
Well, so Viking is really like a profession anyways.
It is. It's a whole different...
I mean, it's like, it's a common misnomer where they're, identifying a race of people by one profession.
Yeah.
It would be like
a Norse kind of.
Yeah. It would be like us, calling everyone from Las Vegas hookers. Yeah, there's hookers there, but not everyone in Las Vegas is a hooker.
There's a lot of hookers in Vegas.
Which there is nothing wrong with hookers.
No, there's nothing wrong with sex work. Everyone has to have a job.
Which is a whole nother topic, but I think we're a sex work positive podcast here. Yes.
You gotta do what you gotta do. And that's if that's what you want to do, boo boo, then that's what you do, boo boo.
Yeah, and if that's what you're good at, do what you're good at. Just make sure you're respectful to all parties involved and respectful to yourself and to your respective partner or partners, I think is a major thing there.
Yeah. Maybe we can do an episode of sex workers and witchcraft.
Sex magic.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. But this digital occult library, I think, kind of defines the occult in a very nice way. So they quote, the occult are a disparate set of beliefs and practices from across all cultures and time periods in human existence that are characterized by their egocentric and spiritual nature, as well as their propensity to keep the secret from the general population for fear of prosecution, misuse, misunderstanding, or to retain power through secret no knowledge. Because the cults had many different meanings over time, which we have talked about.
Right.
You know,
well, like
you have
everything. I mean, language evolves.
Oh, yeah. And when Christianity first started to... Not necessarily first, but like, what am I trying to say? Like, the Church of England, when that started to become huge and they started weaseling their way into the monarchy and stuff, you start seeing the witch trials and stuff like that. And you start seeing that these things are bad. Things that you have been doing for generations of going to this medicine woman and this, or medicine man, shaman, the thing that you've been doing for generations is all of a sudden seen as bad and taboo because it doesn't fit now.
You still see that in this day and age. I mean, you have, again, not to go down the political road, but you have certain ideologies that certain groups follow, and then suddenly there's a shift or there's a change, and suddenly, oh, hey, we now go with the exact opposite. We're now supporting the exact opposite. You know, that's, unfortunately, that's the way, you know, mob mentality and hive mind works, is with that exact aspect. And, you know, you have both positive and negative outcome on that. I mean, you look at, you know, slavery. At a certain point, everyone's like, you know, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. This is bad.
Yeah.
And so we had a war over it.
You're starting to see a shift in people our generation, because we are not that far apart in age, that organized religion is kind of going a little bit more downhill. People our generation are kind of going into more of, maybe not occult things, but more of a spiritual kind of belief.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's going back to the spirituality and regressing back to what was, you know, what I feel as what's more natural for us. Because while, yes, it's good to be part of a community, at a certain point when you're in too big of a community, you lose your sense of identity and you lose your sense of personal connectiveness with, you know, whatever it is, you know, whether you want to call it God or the divine or goddess or, you know, great spirit or whatever. After you reach a certain point, you start taking in the ideology of that around you and lose connection of what's important and lose connection to, you know, the world around you and different aspects of the divine. And that's, I think that's something as a culture that we've, you know, taken and we've gotten hit hard with. And I think our generation has been trying to reclaim that and trying to, you know, set things in a reasonable way to where we have that balance with the modern mundane world versus the fantastical occult world.
Yeah. Well, and I think COVID has honestly kind of helped. You've taken the community out. You can't be around people, you know. Sorry, you can't go sit in your church. But you know what? You can go meditate in that forest behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you can go do that stuff.
There's
stuff that is socially distancing, quote.
There's a great comic that I love it every time I see it, but at the same time it hurts my soul, where there's a guy who takes it and he finds like an apple tree, and he's hungry. He finds an apple tree, but he doesn't want apples, so he chops the apple tree down and builds an altar and prays for pears. And it seems kind of minute, and it seems humorous, but in reality, I mean, that's we have lost sight of what we have been given. We've lost sight of what's around us, and we as a culture, especially you have this more in Western culture, and especially America and Americanized ideology, but what we have isn't enough, and so we are constantly grasping for that. And I feel like part of that is because we've disconnected so much from nature, and disconnected so much from the natural balance of things.
Well, who we are as humans.
Yeah, I mean, we're animals, guys.
Yeah,
it's
who we are.
We're the only animal that pays to live on this planet.
This is true.
So
I didn't think about that till you said that.
Yeah. So moving forward.
So over the years, the acceptance of occult practices has changed. The acceptance has drastically changed over the years. And I think that has a lot to do with how news was spread. A lot of things back then were word of mouth, a letter. Nowadays it's instant. We have the internet, social media, the news, 24-hour news cycle. You constantly know what's going on in every corner of the world, where back then you may not have known what happened the village over. So what might be accepted in your little village might not be accepted 2 villages over. So when you start to see the witch prosecution in England and Europe, in some villages, nothing happened. 2 villages over, lots of people died because of that stuff.
Which, I mean, the information age that we live in is both great and horrible, because, I mean, while everyone has a platform and everyone has the ability to say what they feel, which is great.
It's awesome.
But you also have the fact that everyone has the ability to say what they feel, and you have a lot of wackadoos out there. And I am trying to be polite about that. But saying things like, water turns frogs gay, and all sorts of other weird stuff. And for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But then you have, the ability for some weirdos to set up a couple mics on different parts of the country and talk about occult things, and you get the privilege of sitting here listening. So, I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing yet. You can...
it's going to be a great thing.
Keep that... If it's a good thing, let us know. If it's a bad thing, keep it to yourself.
Yeah. We don't want to hear... We'll read it, and we won't care.
I think
we've seen a lot. Huh?
We both had enough hate in life.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Haters gonna hate.
They are, and they can kiss my ass. But I think we've seen a lot of how bad technology can be with information with COVID. I think everyone is realizing how, yes, the internet is great, and yes, the internet is fantastic. However, not everything on the internet is true. Sorry.
You mean there's not sexy singles in my area looking to hook up?
No. I mean, maybe.
I totally believed that, though. There goes my weekend plans.
I'm sorry to burst that bubble. I'm sorry. But I think COVID has really taught people that not everything is true. And I think we're always going to have that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, regardless of what side of the fence you sat on COVID, you know?
Well, and you even saw that back then. You know, things that were done for hundreds of years are all of a sudden bad.
Yeah, I mean, you had people turning midwives in, or, you know, so, yeah, but so you'd have, you know, old Scratchy down the street that, you know, made some tonic that, you know, helped your granny get over some sickness, but now old Scratchy's, you know, an evil Satan worshiping witch who needs to be dealt with because, you know, we had a bad harvest.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and a lot of times
some people die.
Well, a lot of times they would take it, you know, they would select people who were, you know, burdened on the society, and that, you know, stuff they get from the Malachus Maricarum, which we'll get into that in an episode too. That's a whole nother side quest. But so they would take it, and, you know, anyone who's a burden on society, they'd be like, well, this lady has too many cats. This lady doesn't have enough cats. This lady's got too many kids. This lady doesn't have enough kids. You know, this lady...
Or she's not married.
Or she's not married. Or her and, you know, Betty Lou are really good friends. So they're both witches.
Really good friends.
I mean, that's where the term fag comes from, is, you know, it's a bundle of sticks. And what it was is, you know, they would burn gays at the stake because they were evil. And, you know, they would call them fags because, or, you know, faggot, like, it's a bundle of sticks. And so they're just like, you know, we're going to throw them on the fire like a bundle of sticks. So there's
Which I don't understand.
By the way, slight statement here. I am LGBTQ. I am allowed to say fag. So before I get any hate, I can say fag.
It's like we're both part of that community.
Yeah. So
it's like my brother. I have a hard time. I'm an asexual person, so don't really feel part of that community, but it's whatever.
Yeah. I mean, so you've got two very different, like, very opposite ends of the spectrum here. Those of you who are listening, me being pan and her being ace. So it's, you know, very different perspectives on a few things. So there's a lot of people that, you know, have fallen under the occult umbrella through history.
A lot of people that people don't realize.
Well, yeah. Well, so there's, you know, some obvious names, but then there's some people that, you know, you might not think about. Then there's some people that you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Like, prime example, David Bowie.
Yeah, no, David Bowie was definitely a dabbler in the cult. Sammy Davis Jr. actually joined Antoine LaVey's Satanic Church for a while, which I just found that out yesterday, and I was like, wait, what? Are you fucking serious? Because that kind of blew my mind.
Record scratch?
Yeah, no. But, of course, you have, you know, Crowley, or Crowley is the proper English pronunciation. But
when you have the Fox sisters.
You have the Fox sisters.
A lot of people, if you don't know who the Fox sisters are, there's countless podcast episodes. Just type them into Wikipedia. The fact that their toes could crack that loud slightly disturbed me.
Allegedly.
That's creepy. And they should have seen a doctor for that.
But Nostradamus, who was, you know, notorious for making tons and tons of predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky, which we've already talked about a little bit, but we're going to go deep dive into her at some point.
Yes.
Marie Laveau.
She deserves a full episode.
Her and her daughter, who had the same name, were both extraordinary women. But yeah, that's a whole thing. Of course, Alex Sanders and Gerald Gardner, who were the foundation of a lot of modern Wicca and Wiccan practices.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, famous, like, astrologers and stuff going way, way back to...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got John Dee, Nicholas Flamel, who I actually don't even think I put it on this list, but yes, the guy from Harry Potter is named after, and there's like a whole book series named after him.
Yes.
Actual famous alchemist and super cool dude. Alan Moore, who was the creator of the Watchmen series, or the Watchmen comics, in the movie. I'm not sure if, you're aware of him, Kels? No?
I have heard of the Watchmen. Have not watched it.
Grant Morrison, who is an amazing, amazing comic book author. I'm actually rereading the entirety of The Invisibles currently, which is an amazing comic book series for those of you who are fans of comics. Absolutely amazing, really interesting delve into the human psyche from a theological and theosophical standpoint. Stevie Nicks, of course. We can't leave Stevie Nicks off the list.
Now, I want to know, what about Stevie Nicks?
Oh, she's a witch. Like, she is a straight-up witch.
Really?
True facts. Yes, she's a straight-up witch.
What?
Which is... Yeah, no. So for real, she's a straight-up witch. She's a practicing witch.
What?
So yeah, so
but
Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks. So Sir Isaac Newton. I actually did a report on Sir Isaac Newton back in high school. Really interesting dude. So most people know Sir Isaac Newton for, physics and mathematics, but he actually wrote more papers on theology and alchemy than he ever did on physics and mathematics.
This is true.
He is freaking awesome. As I already said, Sammy Davis Jr. Azalea Banks, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I apologize for any fans of hers, but she is a rapper and apparently a witch.
Yeah.
That's
interesting. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think you would want everyone to know that that's what you do.
What, being a rapper? Yeah,
no.
It's a profession. Just a musician.
It's a profession. It's whatever. It's whatever.
She's just kind of famous, I guess. I don't know.
Kind of. I stopped listening to the radio so long ago.
I don't listen to the radio either, so
I have no clue who anybody is anymore.
Her name came up.
I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of books.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, audiobooks, and music that doesn't come on the radio because I enjoy, folk music, punk music, and especially shitty folk punk music.
This is true.
So
this is very true.
I pride myself in listening to bad music because I enjoy it and it's entertaining to me.
Not all of it's bad, though. Not all of it's bad.
I mean, subjectively speaking, but I'm totally okay with that.
Minor side note, because I think I haven't told you this. So thank you, Facebook, for your algorithms. But I found this band called The HU. They're Mongolian heavy metal throat singing band.
Yep.
Highly recommend everyone to look them up.
They're fairly interesting. I stumbled upon them a few years ago. But yeah, they're fairly interesting. One of their songs that they do that just came out within the last year is with the lead singer of Papa Roach. I'm not surprised.
So it's in English.
I'm not surprised. But I mean, so that's like a lot of their music is just super chill to like just vibe to, honestly. If you're someone who needs music to help get into a meditative state, and like a lot of it is very tribal and rhythmic, and you can literally just sit there and vibe to it. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah,
I turn it on at work sometimes. Yeah. But I don't think, back to my question, I don't think as a celebrity you would want people to know that, yo, I'm a witch, bitch. Like,
well, it's just like any other theology, and I think it's great to be proud of who you are and what you believe in. But I mean, you have not to call names, but to call names, you have Tom Cruise, who's constantly flapping Scientology interfaces. Mel
Oh yeah.
Gibson and his anti-Semitic self.
Yeah.
I mean, you have other like celebrities and stuff that do it. So I mean,
It's just I feel like there's a huge stigma that comes with saying that you're a witch.
well, there is,
and that you're into these things. I think as a person, I don't necessarily define myself as being a witch and being one that practices that stuff. It's just I'm a spiritual person. Because there's a huge stigma, even with all the witch talk, which PSA, not all that's true.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of baby witches coming out of the woodwork with like TikTok and stuff like that, which I mean, if they find their path, that's great, as long as they're properly educating themselves and doing what's appropriate and not cultural appropriating, because that is a huge other issue that's out there.
Which we can do a whole
side quest
episode
on. I'm calling them side quests. I've already decided. Not saying episode. Side quests.
Side quest. But I'm seeing a lot of it like on Reddit with people asking about sage and like smudging and stuff. Is this cultural appropriation because I'm technically burning sage? And it's like, but you're using it for its actual purpose.
Well, so there is a difference between smudging and saging.
Yes.
So just to put that out there, there is a huge difference between smudging and saging. One is, so smudging itself, it would be considered cultural appropriation, and it goes and there's a whole practice that goes into that, which I believe is Native American spiritualism. Don't quote me on that. But so there's a whole thing there. Saging itself, sage has been used in multiple different cultures around the world. Part of the issue with that, though, is that a lot of white sage, which is what's commonly used, is actually starting to be harder and harder to find. And unless you're, in certain arid areas like the Arizona desert or something, or the high desert in California or something like that, it's more difficult to find. The only reason why I know that is because I went out there a few months back on a trip, and there was wild white sage growing, which was, pretty cool. And I was just like, hey, this looks like sage. This smells like sage. This tastes like sage.
Must be sage.
Because, guys, if whoever's listening, don't stick random plants in your mouth unless you know what they are. It could either
great reference. Just watch Into the Wild. Just watch Into the Wild.
It could either end,
and you'll know what we're talking about.
Really spiritually, really interestingly, or really badly. So just don't do it.
Don't do it.
I'm not an example to live by any means. But so it was wild. It was wild white sage. Yeah.
Well, then I don't think people understand that they can also smudge or cleanse their house with other things besides sage.
It's technically not smudging, but yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, you're
cleansing. You can cleanse your house
with other smokes and stuff. You can use like frankincense and myrrh if you want to take it and get the polarity of both the feminine and masculine energies in the cleansing. But so there's all sorts of herbs and stuff you can use. Incense. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to get into cleansing. Salt water, you can actually cleanse with salt water. But there's
I do a salt scrub once a week, only because I work with the public.
I would scrub myself with boiling oil if I had to work with the public that much.
On the fact that I have two jobs, both dealing with public. And being an emotional sponge, I gotta do that stuff. Yeah. Where did we even start with this?
This is what happens when we do side quests, guys. So there's very different definitions, and while yes, there are certain negative connotations with saying, hey, I'm a witch. I honestly think it's great, and I am not sure of Azalea's pronouns. I believe they are feminine, so I'm going to say, but I'm just going to say they, because I'm not sure if they go by she.
I say they for everybody now.
Yeah.
Everybody's a they till you tell me otherwise.
So I'm not sure if they go by she or not. I'll have to look into that if I reference them again. But, I think it's great of them, and I think it's freaking awesome that they are comfortable enough with saying, hey, I'm a witch. This is who I am. You have to deal with it. And, just putting that out there. And, I mean, it's part of their identity. And regardless whether people like it or not, there's other reasons that they'll hate on them because, hey, it's 2021 and anyone in any kind of public spotlight gets hate. I mean, you name me one person other than Betty White.
We got to put Betty White in a bubble. We got to protect Betty White.
Betty White is immortal, but name me someone in the spotlight or in, the media that's other than Betty White that does not have some kind of trash thrown at them. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, that's not just in social media. You have that with everybody.
Yeah. I mean,
you have that in normal day-to-day life.
I mean, that's every day. So, you know what? Fuck it. She wants to say, hey, I'm a witch. Then, you know what? You do you, boo. And I just said she again. I apologize if you were not a she. But
unlike Stevie Nicks. What are you going to do to Stevie Nicks? What are you going to do? Tell her no?
Nobody tells Stevie Nicks no.
What are you going to do? Tell Stevie Nicks no? No.
So if you want to find us on social media, we're in the process of putting together a Facebook, and we'll have contact information on there if you want to send us any messages or topic requests or, any fun stories having to do with the occult or your experiences. And if you don't mind us, letting us know if you don't mind us sharing them on the show.
We will do mini episodes eventually with them.
Yeah. And hey, if you want to, if you have any experience with cryptids, because I am a huge nerd when it comes to any sort of cryptid, Bigfoot, Mothman, Chupacabra, or any of the lesser known cryptids. I mean, every state in the U.S. has them, and globally there's mythical creatures that show up everywhere. So if you want to send that to us, that'd be awesome.
Yes. Please rate, review, and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it.
So until next time, guys.
Bye.